In this video, we'll look at how cabinets can be customized and modified by going through each panel on the cabinet's specification dialog. Let's begin with the base cabinet and open the cabinet specification dialog by clicking in the lower left-hand corner on the Open button. In the cabinet dialog, there are several panels on the left side that are used to customize the cabinet. I'll start on the General panel. The first option is the cabinet style. You'll find a drop-down for the different cabinet styles that are available in the program that range from corner to several different shaped cabinets. We have a specific video on creating specialty shaped and corner cabinets to learn more about all of the different configurations with these cabinet shapes. At the end of the cabinet style is the option to convert a cabinet to a filler. If you convert it to a filler, you'll notice that it becomes just a false front cabinet. There is a specific cabinet filler tool that you can use that you'll find over in the menu system for base, wall, and full height fillers. Cabinets can be sized to the 1/16 of an inch. You can see that the width, height, and depth information is located in the size and position, and for the height of the cabinets in Chief Architect it does include the countertop. In this case, this cabinet is 36 inches with a 1.5 inch countertop, which would make the actual cabinet box 34.5 inches. Below the sizing information is an elevation reference. You can specify an absolute position, maybe a cabinet outside or on a second floor. You can specify from the floor, from the finished floor, and a few other options for that elevation reference. There's also controls for the elevation finished floor to top or finished floor to bottom. Could be for a bathroom vanity that you want hung. You might have a 24-inch cabinet and you set the finished floor to bottom at 12 inches. Countertop information is 1.5 inches, and in this case you see a little wrench with a check mark. That means it's using the default settings established in your cabinet defaults. I'll point you to those defaults here in just a minute. The overhang information currently is at 1 inch, uniform, which means all the way around the cabinet as you're looking at it from the top down, that overhang will be uniform. You can uncheck that and then you have access to control on each side what that overhang will be. For the corner treatment, you can specify if it's none, clipped, or rounded, and then also the corner width. For the backsplash, if I turn this on, notice that currently I don't have a preview for a backsplash. When a cabinet is away from a wall, it will not display. As soon as you push it to the wall, it will display. There is the option for always present, and you can force that backsplash to be on, and then the height and thickness control for your backsplash. The toe kick, again, you can either turn that on or turn it off. You can specify the height, the depth, and then also there is settings for the sides and back for your toe kick. Most of the time, if you toggle these on or off, you can determine exactly how that might affect the cabinet by simply clicking these items and turning them on and off, as well as always present. If it's adjoined to another cabinet, it will maintain that closed toe information. If you're going to be putting legs or feet on your cabinet, the foot height is determined by the height of your toe kick. If you want a 6-inch foot, change the toe kick to 6 inches, and then when we get to the accessory panel and you specify the feet, they will come in at the same height as your toe kick. At the bottom of the dialog, grayed out for the corner cabinet, is the option for a diagonal door. If this was a corner cabinet, you could uncheck this, make it a pipe front shaped cabinet, as well as add a Lazy Susan to it. And then if you have suppress room moldings, that will turn off the molding when it's bumped up against a wall. If you uncheck that, the molding will be retained. Let's take a look at the box construction panel. Cabinet boxes can either be framed or frameless. If your cabinets are framed, you can control the separation, and then you can also put on a style on either side of the cabinet for your framed cabinets. If the cabinet is frameless, notice that the extended style then is removed. You can control the top and the bottom for your cabinet box. Could be that you have a coffee station like I have right in here that has the bottom removed to expose the countertop below. For your door and drawer overlay, you can specify if it's a traditional overlay and then the overlap amount, if it's a full overlay, or if it's inset, which you'd probably be using a frame box for. And then the cabinet corner treatment can be rounded or clipped. If you want to control the amount of clipping, you can come in here and make any adjustment that you want for your information on the clipping for the corner. On the cabinet front, sides, and back panel, at the top of the panel is the side control. Notice in the drop down you can modify each of the 4 sides. Currently I'm on the front side, and then on the side type I'm on the custom face, which means I'm going to be creating the custom faces that are below, and that allows me to add modifications to this cabinet. For the face items, you can either click on the face item in the preview panel. Notice how that highlights a drawer. You can also click on them in this list to select the face item. To add a new face item or remove a face item or move it up and down, you'll find these controls as well as split horizontally and vertically. To add a new face item, you can click the Add New. You can choose the type of face item. If I want to add a drawer in here, and then the face item height, and it will insert it below that particular face item above. Face items can be changed. If you click on the door, I can come over, and from the face item I can easily change that to a drawer. This face item can be split horizontally, and now you can see that I've created a bank of 4 drawers. If I come over, click at the top level for the vertical layout, there's an equalize option that will then space those objects equally. If it appears that they may not be equal, anytime you modify or add a face item, it will typically be locked from resizing. If I click on this particular face item, you're going to notice that it is currently locked. So the lock button is now removed, and when you click on the vertical layout, press equalize, you now know that each one of those face items would be the same size. Toward the bottom of the dialog are the side properties. For this frameless cabinet, there is reveal control. If you want to change the default from the reveal from the cabinet box construction panel, you can change that reveal by pressing in the value you want, and you notice that the reveal is different than it is on the other side. Framed cabinets have additional reveal control. You'll find a separate video on controlling reveal on a per face item or per side basis in our video repository. There are options to control the open for the door and roll out shelves. For the drawers, you can turn these to be on or open, and for each one of these drawers you can click on them. You can specify the amount open for each one of them to control how far they might display either in a plan view or in a 3D view. You can control the other sides. If I switch this to one of the sides on the right side, rotate around, you have control over what this side will do. One of the options you can do, if you change this to match front, you could easily repeat the side of this cabinet. May not be the best choice for this style. To reset the side, you can come back and choose default. If you want to put an end panel on the side of the cabinet, there's an option. You can come in, say custom face, and then for the blank area you can switch that down in the face item properties to either a panel applied or a panel inset. For either of these panels, you can go into the library when we close the dialog and then apply that panel style onto the cabinet. Typically I'll do that in a 3D view. When I open the wall cabinet, I'll discuss another option for your side panel. Let me close this cabinet dialog. I'll open up the library catalog, and then using one of the manufacturer cabinet door styles, I'll click on the panel, come over, click on the side of the cabinet. Notice my cursor becomes a replacement, and then I can easily apply that style of a panel. For the wall cabinet, when I click on the wall cabinet and I click on the red edge that's selected, the cabinet is bumping in 3-inch increments. When I let go, the cabinet door will become a double door. If I go to resize this cabinet, I can't resize it past 9 inches. Let me pull this back out to 30 inches. Let's take a look at where these controls are set in your cabinet defaults. Come up to the defaults and then into the cabinet defaults. Let's look at the general cabinet defaults. You'll find the control for your minimum cabinet width set at 9 inches. The auto door threshold, when I resize this to get the double door, the threshold once it exceeds 24 inches will become a double door when it's an automatic left or right door. That control can be specified here. A few options for fillers, and then for your cabinet resizing, when I'm resizing that cabinet is bumping in 3-inch increments. If you want to change that down to a 1/16 of an inch or an inch, you can make that adjustment here in your cabinet defaults. Let me go back into the wall cabinet by double clicking on it. For the door and drawer panel, a few settings. You can use the default, which is established in your cabinet defaults. You can choose from a slab or frame door, or browse out to the library and change your cabinet door style. You also noticed how I did that in the 3D view for the side panel, where you can find your desired style and then just apply it in your 3D view. You can do the same thing from the library right in here. There's an option to add a style between your double doors. You can change your door hardware. Again, use default is coming from your cabinet defaults. If you zoom in, you can see that the hardware in from edge, up from bottom. If you're using a larger hardware, you may need to change that. Also, if you're going to have multiple door styles, maybe an upper door on here, you may need to change it. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Hinges, you can control your hinges. Your drawer, similar to your door, you can control what style it is, as well as browsing out to the library. Those can also be applied in a 3D view. Control for the drawer handle placement. I don't have a drawer on the wall cabinet. You would have control for the positioning for all of your drawers. And then at the bottom, the option to have a slab that is beveled and specify that amount. Let me take a look at the situation where you have two different door styles and you want a different hardware on the upper style. On the general panel of the wall cabinet, let's change the height of this to be 48 inches. Then I'm going to click on the face item. I'm going to split it horizontally, and then I'm going to change that upper face item to be 15 inches. And let's look at how you can change your hardware for this condition. Typically, I like to apply the hardware in 3D. Let's go ahead and open up our library browser. As you browse out to the library and you find the hardware and you click to apply it onto the cabinet, as I zoom over here, it replaces the hardware on both doors. If you want to control the hardware on a per face item basis, go back into the cabinet by double clicking on it, come over into the dialog, click on the door that you want to change. There is the option for the appliance door drawer specify, and I'm going to come into the door handle and click on the library browse. And here's where you can browse out, find your favorite hardware. I'm going to use a shorter style, make the change, and now you see that preview. Also, you could come in here and change the door style to be different than the lower door style. I'll just change this to a simple frame door and then turn it on to glass. And now I've customized the face item uniquely from the overall cabinet with both the cabinet door style and the hardware. To add moldings onto the cabinet, there's a specific panel for moldings. Simply come over, add new, browse down, find the molding that you want. You can then set the sizing information. I'll just use a 2 by 3 in the profile. Then there is the offset information, and in this case the molding is 3 inches high. If I set the offset in a negative value, that will move it up off the box. Notice that it is to the top. And you can also specify that this is a crown molding if you're going to be doing a schedule for your moldings, light rails, countertop edges, or your shoe or base molding. You can stack your moldings simply by adding an additional one, or you can add a light rail at the bottom of the cabinet box. Again, come in to add new. Come down, find the profile that you're after. I'll just use a simple rectangle, and I'm going to change it from the top to the bottom. You see the preview down here. Set the width 1/2 inch, the height, and then again a negative value will move it off the box. You see the preview of it, and if I kind of zoom out, you can see the moldings. There is an option to come in here and change this offset, and let's make sure we're on the crown molding. Change the offset for the face frame. You'll see that pop out, and you can make the adjustment. On the accessory panel, you'll find information for your pilasters. You can use the library, browse out just like we did for the crown molding and the hardware, and then you can control exactly where that's going to go, whether it's on the front or corner, and then the width. Below in the panels is where you can control the default side panel that shows up on the cabinet. Earlier for the base cabinet, my default was using a slab. You can come in for your panel style and you can choose what style is going to be used, including browsing out to the library and making a change. Once you have the framed panels, you can also control if it's going to be a full-size panel, and if you were to go back and make the change on the front, sides, and back for, let's say, the left side of the cabinet, and we just said that it is paneled, it will then use that panel information found on the accessories panel down here. Also note, once I selected it was a full size panel, there's the option for full overlay. You can get a preview of exactly the way that looks. On the opening indicator panel, you can control the openings typically used in an elevation view. If you want to use the default, which will have the opening indicators for the doors, you can show it or hide it on a per cabinet basis. The layer panel controls which layer your cabinets are going to go on. You'll typically find your wall cabinets, base cabinets, and full height cabinets all on individual layers. You can click Define if you want to override and change that to a different layer. On the Fill Style panel, you can control what you will see in the floor plan view. For my wall cabinet, you can see currently it is showing in a white preview. You can come in here and change this to maybe a solid color, browse out, find a different color for your cabinets. I'll just use maybe a light gray. And then you can see that fill style. You can also set transparency information. So if you wanted to see below that, maybe 50% at transparency, then you'll be able to see what's below that wall cabinet. If you were to say this was a hatch or some other texture, you'll find controls for how you can set up that hatch. I'll just set it back to a solid for now. On the material panel, you'll see materials used throughout all of the components that make up your cabinet. You can group select these. Click and then come to the bottom, shift click, and you can browse out and find the materials for this. You can also easily change your materials in a 3D view. So a couple of options on how to control the materials for your cabinets. On the label panel, currently this is set up to use an automatic label with typical nomenclature that is generic. If you want to override this behavior, you can specify your own label. And in doing this, notice that there are macros down here if you wanted to put in information for the depth of the cabinet, or the height of the cabinet, or the width of the cabinet. All of these are macros. If you resize the cabinet, it will dynamically update the label that is used. You'll find additional controls for your label. If it has a border, the alignment, the positioning if you wanted to offset this. Let's say that I put an offset of 6 inches in the X direction. You can control all of this information. The label can also be placed on a different layer. Currently is using the same layer as the cabinets. You can easily change that on the Components panel. This will give you a breakdown of all of the information that makes up your cabinet. If I were to come over and put in a price for the cabinet, let's say I put in $2,500, you can also add markup and labor, and then when you calculate your materials costs, all of this information can be detailed in the materials list. On the Object Information panel, you can put in a code if your manufacturer has a code, comment. There may be specialty information, a glazing or other accessories you want to put in a comment field. The automatic description is coming out of the cabinet itself. You can always override that, add to it, add manufacturer information, add supplier information. At the bottom of the dialog are custom fields if you want to add and create a new field. In this case, I might create a new component for shelving. This will add an available field that can be added into my cabinet schedule. You can assign a value such as the material, and this new field will be available for your cabinet schedule. On the Schedule panel, currently this cabinet is going to be going automatically into the cabinet schedule. If you want to override this, you can include it in different schedules. You'll see that right now this cabinet is currently going into the wall cabinets. You can easily change this, as well as adding it into other schedules if you decide that it's a better fit. If it's a custom piece of furniture, you may want to change it. You can also exclude this cabinet from being included into the schedule by deselecting this option at the top. That wraps up the cabinet dialog changes. As you can see on my screen, there are several other cabinet edits that can be made. It can be good practice to go through each of the cabinet settings yourself to learn how you can customize your cabinets. Thanks for watching the video.